Welcome back, everybody. Round 3 is just around a corner here at our April AGE Open. We've already seen 2 rounds of play, including an interesting Dash.io win, which I was quite impressed to see against a victor, of course, Tyler Horspool there. Calling Orlando champion, I want to say, going back, or Vegas, it might have been. Either way, he's pretty damn good at the game. Our next game features 2 people quite good at the game. One of them definitely very notable. One, Charles Dunn, will be sat at the table here, of course. Your current national champion, formerly out of Pittsburgh, relocating here to SoCal, obviously a game dev on Diablo 4, and part of the fabled Runaways roster, who, many of which found great success at the Pro Tour. Cody Williams, I think we got to see on stream. We got to talk to him. They're very happy with the Hatchet's Dorinthea list, Michael, they've developed.
Yeah. The take used to be that Dawnblade was the preferred weapon of choice in a Dromai because you could just put those counters on the Dawnblade and build it up. But it sounds like Charles Dunn feeling really comfortable into Dromai with hatchets.
Well, funny you should say that because this Runaways list features a Dawnblade in the sideboard for just this occasion.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so, but what I find interesting about that is that you can definitely stack counters with it, but there's not as much support for the Dawnblade in this list. Let's jump in. Be Chris Stidger here. Local from Odyssey. I actually played him earlier this week. Hatchets versus his Dromai list. I got there, but it wasn't the smoothest game. Loves Dromai. Really a big fan of that deck. Charles Dunn, though, again, listen, doesn't matter who you are, getting paired up against the current national champion never feels particularly exciting. But yeah, expect to see that the Dawnblade come out here. Now, you do have go again sources, but Blade Runner is a one-handed weapon only go again.
Right.
So that card is blocking in this matchup.
Okay. So he brings it in anyway. There's no space to cut it. So he just says, I'll use this as a blocking card and move on to the more relevant cards on offense. That's interesting.
I look, and he probably has some support for it, maybe like in the sideboard, right? But cards like Glint the Quicksilver still do the job. There's no like run through, right?
Right.
That's like a decent option instead of Blade Runner, which works on your Dawnblade as well as on a Hatchet. It's a target sword attack. Aha.
Right.
So that's why you can't include it there. So, cards like In the Swing can be effective. It has to be on the second attack, but not always easy to guarantee that. Against Dromai, though, you definitely can if you can sort of eat up a dragon here. The Dawnblade plan against Dromai is generally to try and stack up Dawnblade counters until you have about 3.
Right.
Once you have about 3, you want to start killing a dragon and going at Dromai's face.
Right.
Sort of one after another here. So that's the plan. But at first, you probably see Charles spend a bit more time clearing dragons here. And Chris, at some point, will have to say, should I even deploy more than one dragon at a time? Because I don't want to be guaranteeing my opponent a Dawnblade counter every turn.
Yeah, I wonder if the matchup changes much when you have an aggressive Dromai list. Looking at this here, it does not appear to be terribly aggressive. So we've got more of a big dragon plan from Chris Stidger, which is, I have to imagine, not the position you want to be in against a Dawnblade when you rely solely on dragons for your offense.
Red line's a lot better against Dawnblade Dory here, but Nourishing Emptiness turn 0 is pretty darn good. This is going to ask Charles for some of that equipment here. So the Dynamos and, of course, the Braces get in front. Again, can't always guarantee 2 sword swings with Dawnblade because you can get stuffed on the first one. But if you're eating dragons and have go again, you can get that value. It's just not as smooth to get as if you had hatchets.
Just snap blocking with that shows that he didn't have to think at all about whether or not to give up equipment there.
Driving Blade here will guarantee non-conditional go again and give a buff. It's pretty expensive to play, but again, here, definitely relevant. So this is the Dawnblade coming in with go again. There's no dragons to eat up here as Chris only spent his first turn sort of cracking that gold and sending the Nourishing in. So Charles probably doesn't have... This deck is lighter on attack reactions to guarantee Dawnblade hits, right? The Hatches list doesn't have a lot anyway. Getting Tomotai here, though, probably feels pretty good. Can blow up your Dynamos, deny you a lot of value. You can even eat Tunic. Charles says, okay, this is getting through. We have the sort of, what are they called? The ones that, the Ward Gauntlets. There we go. That's what they are.
Interesting choice to block with the
Wave of Reality, excuse me.
Yeah. I almost wonder if it would have been better for him to just throw that in Arsenal if he didn't have the option to play it, but decides to go for the E-Strike and block with it.
There's an E-Strike for 7 here. And again, the blocking pattern when you're playing with Dawnblade is actually fairly... Normally, you don't want to block too heavily when you have Dawnblade. You want to get as much value out as if you can. But you can see Charles's hand here is a Glint the Quicksilver and a Sigil of Solace. So to some degree, still wants to deploy that Sigil, gain that life. if he has a go again enabler in arsenal, then it's on. Here it is, just the Dorny B. 2 floating. And again, still representing like a reaction. No dragons to gobble up yet, though. So this is not, for those watching, this is not a typical Dawnblade strategy. This is more awkward to make work. But Charles really says he likes it here. Sigil comes out. Famous card, one that Charles definitely likes to play in basically every deck he has.
Doesn't surprise me to see that in this list, although I don't think most Hatchets Dorinthea lists are playing the Sigil.
No. Can be relevant, though. Here's Dromai. First dragon finally making an appearance.
Yeah, pushing some damage, but also opportunity for counters.
Yes, Charles obviously with the old school equipment layout. Justin does that as well, but he has them in a square.
Yeah.
It tilts me, but hey.
I don't like it either.
It's allowed. So follow the Dromai up with an E-strike now. 5 go against. There's more where that came from.
Charles just valuing the life total, blocking out very efficiently here.
Yeah, it doesn't need to do too much. Stay nice and healthy. Dust up here as a chain ender. Now, we didn't have 2 sword attacks last turn, so Valiant Dynamo isn't on. Dust up represents an absurd amount of value here on a 0 for 4. Also, it's snappable, of course, and that's something Charles has to be aware of. This could get go again. So we will risk it and take the on-hit here. So make an Ash. Make an Ashwing?
No.
No, okay.
Just the Ash.
Good choice from Chris. You definitely want to deny the Ashwing creation
Looks
here.
like he knows this matchup and the correct way to play that.
Okay, but we will still get go again here. So 2 attacks with the Dawnblade now. Coming in for 3 for our second. Warrior's Valor requires a hit of the Dawnblade to gain go again. That is guaranteed against the dragon. And here it is, Fate Foreseen.
Interesting choice there. Likes his hand, wants to keep all of it.
Yes, 4 cards to play off. I mean, Chris will be sitting, again, he sees a Dawnblade, he will Arsenal defense reactions. It is the antithesis to that Dawnblade strategy. Down, but a last-ditch effort, in the deck here for Charles Dunn. So we're expecting to get pretty low on cards here. Burn Them All comes out. That does mean that Chris needs to deploy dragons to carry that arcane damage.
Yep. And we also see a Blaze Headlong, which I must have missed earlier. I think I see he's only running 2 copies of that, but still good for the aggressive game plan. And perhaps he sided out some of those dragons knowing what he was up against in Charles Dunn's Dawnblade list.
Charles now has a way to cover this breakpoint with the Valiant Dynamo.
Yep, lots of attack actions here.
Throwing them out. Yeah, last-ditch effort. Not super relevant here. Oh, this might just be a friendly Command and Conquer turn.
It could be that Charles Dunn has a game plan of fatigue into an attack action-oriented Dromai, saying, I don't care if you put dragons out or not, because I'm the fatigue master. I'll block you out and take the value either direction you go.
I do want to point out, like, this matchup for the Dorinthea player requires a really deep understanding of just what Dromai can do. Charles has lost to Dromai even on an AGE stream. I think he was playing like a Fatigue Bravo list at the time. So, I mean, this guy's, you test with the runaways, you are getting in games and games. This guy really knows what he's dealing with here. But it's interesting, right? You are deploying CNC offensively instead of using it as a popper. And it might be because you expect your opponent's going to be more reluctant to, develop those dragons. Snatch, though, taken away from the arsenal.
It just takes the hit.
Okay. Chris hoping for another big turn. Again, sometimes this can telegraph a Tome of Imperial Flame. If you want to just make sure you have more choice of what you're pitching. Ravenous Rabble to start off with.
Oh, there's the Tome. Not in his hand yet, but soon to be.
It's a good card, that one. I will say that Spoils of War is relevant both for Axes and for the Dawnblade. That flexibility, giving that +2 and go again, is really, really nice, and it means that it has a true home in this deck.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Spoils of War against Dromai specifically is that it can work to cover up the Kyloria on hits. Stealing a copper is not nearly as strong as drawing a card.
It's a big deal. In this matchup, less so, because generally like the Valiant Dynamo's online to deal with that Kyloria, but it always is threatening. We're going to take it on the chin here, preventing 1 damage. Charles wants that non-conditional go again. It does mean that the Spoils of War now is just a buff and might just see a spot in the arsenal. We have, we did deploy multiple Ashwings here, so this means a counter for Charles because he has that onboard go again. It's quickly hit 1 Ashwing, hit the other. and move on with your life. Just pitching a blue and then arseling the spoils for a later turn that he needs that non-conditional go again. Bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am. We'll get a counter.
Yeah, interesting choice from Chris to not make the Ashwing earlier, but then go ahead and play the rake and make all three. Maybe thinking that if he can overwhelm his opponent, it's okay to give a counter here or there.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Like Charles is not going to be, that's not his primary sort of game plan to build those counters up. I think he will, get them incidentally. At some point, Chris, to advance his game plan, has to deploy dragons.
Yeah,
he has to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's really smart of him to play that now because he had the tome in his hand, which guarantees a 5-card hand. If you're just going to spend all your cards to clear my dragons, great. I'll come back at you with one of the most powerful cards in my deck, the tome, and see if you can stop.
Typically, that's what Dromai gets to do.
Yep.
She gets to keep her whole hand against the Dory, which means that the Dory often is clearing, and cards like this become a little bit scarier now. So Dominia comes down, threatening to tear a card from Charles's hand. And what is... Yeah, we're gonna get a little ulti here, of course.
Charles seems like he's seen this before, not too worried about it, even though this is potentially a pretty powerful card coming down. A lot of value in forcing a banish from hand.
And first, Charles is going to deploy the instant, take it on the chin, or at least was considering it there.
Yeah.
To avoid losing it. It's a bit awkward, the split damage, of course. Burn them all is a pretty key win condition against the Dorinthea here, because even though she has that Arcane Barrier 1, she can't afford to pitch cards to it until the end game where it's just keeping you alive. So you have to bring it. You don't use it often, though. You are taking a lot of this arcane damage. Okay, bam, bam, bam. We are showing our hand here. Blade Flurry, Blade Runner, Fatal Engagement. Yeah, the Blade Flurry is the correct choice there, I'd say. Fatal Engagement here is primarily a blocking card. It can pump a Command and Conquer if blocked by an attack action. That is the only other sort of real application of it.
Yeah.
In this spot, some Dory decks used to have a Singleton Pummel because you can tutor it with Singing Steelblade.
Interesting.
You target the Dawnblade attack that has already happened on the chain link with the Singing, pull the Pummel out and play it on the current chain link that the CNC's on.
Wow.
Yeah, very cheeky.
That's a pretty heads-up play.
It's very dirty. I've never done it, but...
Are they running the blue pummel or the red?
Blue pummel.
Blue, yeah. So you can just keep it in your deck, pitch it.
That's right.
Search it later.
When it's fun pitching it and seeing how your opponent reacts, yeah. All right, so again, having the counter here is pretty good. Dominia gets eaten for breakfast pretty comfortably, and then Charles can head over towards the Ashwing. But he might be thinking, okay, I'm going to keep this counter regardless this turn because I've hit. Now let's try and pressure some cards from my opponent. Coming at you, Chris, for 5.
Yep, activating those bracers, pumping it +1.
And this is heads up. Some Dories get tunneled on the idea I need to build those counters now. But if you don't strip cards from your Dromai opponent's hands, she will overwhelm the board.
1 card in hand, 1 card in arsenal. So there's the possibility of an attack reaction here. I think Chris is thinking about that possibility right now as he considers his blocks. I think he has a sand cover to help him with that, though.
Past reactions. Okay, Fate Foreseen. Sand cover would be, okay, well.
Just huge overblock.
Yeah, and you lose an Ash for that, right?
Yeah.
You don't have any equipment to block that with, so I understand.
I feel like he went too fast there. What I would have liked to see is Sink Bullet or Fate Foreseen and then wait. And just let Charles play an attack react if he had one. But instead.
Yeah, I guess if you pass and they pass, though, then you're not blocking it adequately. Oh, you have an instant. It comes an instant, yeah.
Yeah, so you can pass priority, and if they say they pass back, then you just play it anyway.
Yeah, that's right. But if it were a reaction, you would not be able to do so. That's the difference the instant speed makes.
Yep.
Something Dorinthea players have to be aware of as well. If you try and wait for your opponent, if you try and fish for a prize and your opponent passes, then you cannot play any more reactions.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's an interesting choice. Yeah, this feels bad because you're giving +2, so it's a 6-power Dawnblade attacking a 1-power Ashwing, but you need to guarantee that you keep the counter. It's a huge part of your game plan. So you send 6 damage to a 1 health ally, and then you go face here. You are very limited on attack reactions in this deck, and even Blade Flurry doesn't get you to a break point. So second swing here, in the swing, excuse me, not second swing. In the swing, I believe, can get you some value, can take you to 7, but there are very few attack reactions in this Dory deck as opposed to a standard Dawnblade one. So Charles is happy to keep the counter for now and wait for Chris to overextend on board with these dragons.
Chris just considering his blocks here. I wonder how much he's thinking about just not playing dragons this turn.
I mean, then what does he do? He'd want to have an attack reaction, right? Otherwise, he's just IPing himself. And the thing is that fatigue is absolutely on the table here.
Yep.
You can fatigue the Dromai if you can clear dragons efficiently and then start to strip cards from her hand with a supersized Dawnblade. Getting 2 cards for that as Charles, you're very happy. Now your opponent goes, well, I don't want to give you these counters and this ability to pressure me, but I can't play the game if I don't play dragons. So dust up here. Remember, Chris can decline that Ashwing creation effect. He has 5 Ash to work with, so he's not
There's
starved.
the IP penalty we were talking about, unless he decides to use the Snapdragon Scalers here, which might be an interesting choice.
I think he's representing that
Yeah.
with a card in arsenal and a card in hand. Here come the Dynamos. We'll block this out. Remembrance. Now, what are we looking for? It's action cards, right? So no reactions.
He's pulling the Chromai. I think he might be thinking about...
I think so. Yeah, he is not looking for anything particular. I think he has it in his hand. He wants to divest himself
trying
of
to
it.
be efficient here.
Break the embers though. It's fine. Nice to get that. This is going to be more of a slower paced matchup though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I like what I see in Charles's hand here. So he is thinking, okay, I kind of need to guarantee a hit here, but my opponent hasn't developed any dragons. So does he have an attack reaction? What he might do is with the hit and run, give non-conditional go again to a Dawnblade attack and follow it up with a Command and Conquer. That's always unexpected.
Sure.
And
it's not too big of a loss. You lose 1 counter, you lose 1 counter. It is a break point that you lose, but yeah, following up with the Command and Conquer is great. And especially in a fatigue game plan, a Command and Conquer is a 1 for 2. You exchange 1 of your cards, you get 2 of your opponent's cards. If you do that over and over, you win the fatigue game.
So 6 power Dawnblade at face here. In hand is a Down and Dirty and a Command and Conquer. So we are almost certainly not keeping this counter.
Yep.
Here's Dust Up. It should be a defense reaction from Chris.
No, he just takes it.
Oh.
Interesting.
Okay, I think Charles is very happy to see this.
Yeah.
He's extremely pleased. Yeah, pitching the CNC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, why not? I mean, why not come in again? There's no reason not to now. You're coming in for 5 because of the braces. You're still asking for 2 cards, and you get to keep your Dawnblade counter. That is huge. Not blocking him out in the first attack. Again, I think if Chris is maybe aware of how few attack reactions lurk in the deck of Charles Dunn, he probably just blocks that fully. But hey,
Yeah.
Copper City, my goodness, 6 of those. There's some value if Charles is drawing a blue heavy hand, and this list has a pretty large number of those. Man, Charles gets out of that one like a bandit.
Yeah. You can see he just was kind of reconsidered his line there on the fly because he really was expecting the full block into the Command and Conquer, like you had said.
Yeah. But I think that's way better, right? You're threatening to say, he got a counter too.
Yeah. Yeah, he hit.
That's crazy. Now, I mean, that's huge because now, so there's 2 counters in this build is important because you get taken to breakpoints on spoils and on Blade Flurry.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't have a lot of +3s in this deck, especially pre-pumps. So 1 counter is nice to have. It eats Dominia straight away, like, you know, being able to kill the big dragons in one go, except for, of course, Yenderai and Necria. But getting 2 counters
Necria
now,
still dies because when Necria takes damage,
she goes, yeah.
she gets -1.
That's right.
Effectively 6 health.
Okay, yeah. So
Actually, Yenderai too. It's 3.
that's right. You just lose the endurance counter, right?
So there are no dragons that exist with 7 life effectively.
Yeah, Necria, yeah, will always lose that. Okay, well, I mean, defense reaction here to eat up the snatch.
Easy decision there.
Yeah, Chris struggling to find advantages here.
Ooh, off the tome, he really didn't get a whole lot.
No. And he kept so many cards to do that. He allowed Charles to develop a second counter. Okay, so Charles, there's the Finder's Fighting Spirit there. Now, that is a red, just a 1 of, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing a public list. He's playing the Runaways list here. Okay. So yeah, I'm not giving any trade secrets up. But here's a breakpoint. This is what I was saying. Spoils of War now into a 2-counter Dawnblade. Big 7.
7 is rough.
Is Fatal Engagement lurking in the arse? No, it was the Command and Conquer pocketed from the previous turn. So
I think he pitched that.
Oh, he did indeed.
He
Yeah, to
decided
keep the
to-
down and dirty, right?
Yep, he kept the down and dirty as a popper, and I think he just valued keeping the tunic alive and getting rid of the CNC
Yeah.
for later.
I like that. Okay, we are going to get there
Oh.
with 7 points of block.
It's got that D-react to cover the break point you were just talking about. 7 not so scary when you've got a 4 block in hand.
No pumps here. Charles says, you got it.
There it is. So Chris dodging the scary 2 counters, getting rid of them the very next turn. Well played by him.
Yeah, eventually Charles just wants to work through these defense reactions. Usually it's like 3 sink, 3 fate, a couple of sand covers, not normally 3 sand covers on this list. So now, I mean, Chris feels safer getting Dromai out here. He says, okay, well, I can start doing this thing again where I put dragons in play. Ooh, he doesn't use the down and dirty from Arsenal, so that's still lurking.
Interesting. Probably just wants to use it for whatever the follow-up here
He
is.
was at the finals fighting spirit as well, so
Yeah.
he is ahead on life, so it doesn't feel as valuable to go for that. And also he does, if that's a blue warrior's valor, he could Dawnblade swing if it gets stuffed out, then he could follow up with the finals fighting
Oh,
spirit.
wow. 3 remembrances this early is kind of tough luck for...
Is it the second one, right?
Yes, I think he's played 3. Oh, just kidding. This is his second.
Okay, I mean, they don't block.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was a Sigil of Solace that I
Sigil of
saw
Solace,
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, threw me off at the instant.
Yeah, what does Chris want here? Well, he's already shuffling, so I guess we've made that decision. Oh, well, again, there's... Oh, I see. Sorry. There's nothing in the graveyard to put back in the deck because Burn Them All's chewed through all that fodder.
Yeah.
So he's just getting it out of his hand. Fair enough.
Sure.
One less card in the deck for Charles Dunn to worry about. And here's the Warrior's Valor. +1 to your next Dawnblade or your weapon attack. And if it hits, you could go again. Breakpoint here. Little annoying. But Chris, we've seen a high density of those 4 defense reactions. I'm going to sit on this for it. Normally, this hesitation means you've either got multiple defense reacts or none. The latter is the case.
Yep. Giving
Charles
up
is
2 cards.
He's super happy to see that, right?
Yeah.
That's 2 dragons.
That's your 2 for 1. And I think he just wants to 2 for 1 over and over and over again. The fatigue champion here really thinking about deck damage as he plays through this.
And you can kind of see what he's playing for here because instead of taking some damage and, going lower on life to get more value from the finals fighting spirit, he keeps it because he wants it as a popper, I think.
Yeah.
Yenderai now will get blocked.
Hmm.
Again, no popper.
Yep.
Huh.
Maybe he's thinking about keeping targets on board for his Dawnblade.
He's so patient. Maybe he's just worried about the really threatening dragons here. Kyloria, though, no longer fits that bill. With a veritable trove of copper. All right, we get rid of the endurance counter.
So, basically doing nothing, but also losing no cards from deck.
That is so interesting. Yeah, it feels more efficient to try and pop Yenderai, but anyway, another rabble comes in. Charles is sitting on a 4-power D-react, multiple of them in fact, sinking what looked like a in the swing to get an Oasis. Very defensive looking hand here. Here's Dromai. Doesn't appear to be any go again enabler for Charles, so clearing this board of dragons gets a little tougher. Might be asking for a popper now. You don't really want to pass, you don't really want to pass while your opponent gets to keep a dragon when you want to be clearing them. But of course, the action point is conferred here, so popping doesn't feel nearly as nice.
Yeah, it was a really interesting play from Charles. I haven't quite figured out what the logic was behind leaving the Yenderai up without having it go again to threaten the counter.
I think he wants to keep it on the board to farm it for Dawnblade counters.
Sure.
I think that extra, getting a breakpoint on that Dawnblade is more desirable than him, I guess sort of just popping it and getting rid of it straight away. Yeah. Okay, here's Asvalai. Now you've got a lot of dragons to deal with. So
pitching for Arcane Barrier.
Yes.
And then popping this one.
Okay.
Interesting thing that he actually took the damage and then got the value from that Fiendal's Fighting Spirit there.
Yeah,
reason you run it in this list.
Okay. And the sync gets in front of Yenderai. Because we're on a tunic counter here. Oh. Standing order. Okay.
Yeah. Just a clean 4.
That's 4. Very flexible card, incredibly so. If you are sitting on that arsenal. Well, I think Charles is probably looking just to clear the Chromai here so that Yenderai, the turn will be over once Yenderai gets popped by the down and dirty in Arsenal. I just think Charles is really conservative about how he deploys these like powerful resources on defense.
Yeah, the level of unfortunate.
I hate to see it.
Charles with just a slight frown there, seeing the Mirage come down.
Look, I mean, you're just going to block Yenderai with a card at the end of the day. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Thermai getting deployed here. When you have Mirror Guy, I feel like in a Phantasmless Dragon, you might just want to attack first, right, before you send this Thermai out. Like,
well, I think the Thermai is really great because it can
the
prevent
D-reacts?
the D-reacts and the Oasis, which we did just see get pitched here.
Okay, well, we're going to block that. Now, this is a Phantasmless Yenderai that has already had its endurance counter stripped off. Charles says...
Still just blocking it.
He wants the Mirror Guy. I don't think Chris is going to give it to him. But Chris might be thinking Charles is off a popper. That is, yep,
right.
Yeah. Look, fair enough. Charles is. What?
What is? Charles is blowing my mind with the way he's choosing to play this game.
Really,
right now.
really interesting.
Saying he feels comfortable into Dromai and then not using a down and dirty in Arsenal.
I think he wants it for a backbreaker moment. I guess.
Sure.
Go again.
Fascinating.
We don't get. We don't get a reprise trigger here. We're getting to attack again, and we're bracering. So we can get rid of the Mirror Guy. That's fair enough. It's for toughness. Get a counter. Your opponent still has a Thermai in play. But you've gotten rid of the Phantasm Remover.
Yep. And the more this game goes on, the more I think Charles just thinking about these 2-for-1 cards. He gets 2 dragons for 1 card played, 2 dragons for 1 card played over and over. Maybe popping a dragon is just a 1-for-1. And he says that's not good enough.
Yeah. Unless it ends your opponent's turn on the spot
Right.
when they have something very threatening. I think that might be true.
It's fascinating. So he's really valuing the cards in his deck rather than going 1-for-1.
There is a tension now, right? Because like Charles wants to keep that counter.
Sure.
So he just doesn't want to pop every dragon.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you're not playing that sink in hand and you're going to lose your down and dirty. Can you block this? You got 1-2 points of block. You are losing the down and dirty, buddy. That is a rough time to see your CNC.
Yeah. Well, he can block with it.
That is true. That is
not a D-react.
Yep.
Wow.
Heads up from Charles, but again, yeah, getting that sort of drawn out. Chris has done well to probe for that. So in the end, yeah, Charles may be thinking, okay, there might have been, maybe perfect is the enemy of good, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there might have been an opportunity to make more use of that. Either way, he's able to mitigate damage and not losing it. He still gets 3 value out of that down and dirty, so fair enough.
I was thinking about pitching the D-react for a moment there, but values it more in the Arsenal. Right after getting hit with a Command and Conquer, he's like, do I want this here? Decides to Arsenal instead.
Keeps the counter, clears the dragon. 27 minutes in the round. This is the kind of matchup that goes close to time in some cases. Chris has a trove of ash to work with. Now, Rake the Embers will dip into that resource a little bit more. Just the 1? 2, rather. Sorry. I think he's going to get all of them there. I think because he's pitched a card, he's also created an ash off that.
He's looking for it.
Yeah. Okay. 3 ash wings.
And I really like the way that Chris is sort of doing these explosive dragon blooming turns where he'll play 3 out, 4 out to kind of just say, like, look, if you're going to hit the dragons, you're going to have to hit 4 or more. Really, really smart play by Chris here to, prevent Charles from just getting consistent value and say, if you want to not pop these, if you want to block these all, then block 5.
Yeah, and I think Charles now is off a popper.
Yeah.
A little frustrating. We are taking it.
So this is really great too. The 1/1s, you don't want to block those, and so he's chipping away at that life total. 19, just past the halfway mark.
Taking on the chin in the hand here. Charles instead pitching to AB and then, eating that damage up here. So definitely want to preserve that life at this point. He's going to get himself a counter here, but in this phase of the game, the Dromai player, doesn't really have to give up too many cards. I'm not sure if Charles probably needs to clear 2 dragons here.
Which will be easily done with the Quicken token. And then just moves on with his life. Moves on with the turn.
The magic... The threshold in the normal Dawnblade deck is 3 counters because you almost always have an attack reaction to pump. Here it might be different. But Charles, asking for 2 cards. He might want 4 counters, so he always sticks a breakpoint in front of Stidger, Chris Stidger rather, every time he swings. I'm not too sure how like the philosophy changes here on a deck that's much leaner on A reacts. I think one just got turned sideways to block with here, so you could see how sort of high Charles is on them. Blade Flurry. Here's a little guy. Dynamo. Take 1. Charles is falling behind now in this game, slowly but surely.
Oh.
CNC to follow it up. Oh, Remembrance in hand means that you are blocking with your Go Again enabler. That hurts.
Yeah. No take it on the chin this time for the Quicken token. So another turn that he just leaves dragons on the field.
Yeah, really punishing this CNC chain ender. Doesn't matter what deck is developing it. It is rough. Charles, the bright side, keeps both his counters here. I don't know if there's a Go Again enabler in Arsenal. Doesn't look like it, so we'll just Dromai and we'll remember action cards here. So the down and dirties, yeah, your poppers.
Getting all the poppers. So he's looking at having a popper-dense deck for the late game when Dromai wants to do those really wide Chromai, Miragai setups, and he wants to be able to shut that down.
That's a great point. We've seen a lot of those 6s pitched, right? CNC got pitched. Finals Fighting Spirit got pitched. Charles is thinking well ahead of the average player here.
Yeah.
I love that. Here's Billowing Mirage already offered by Chris. Yeah, this is typically a really difficult matchup, but you play the late game of this enough times, you start to get an intuition for it.
Yeah. We've got a real chess match going on here.
This is a life total you can make up pretty quickly once your Dawnblade gets big enough. Now there's a popper in hand. We're going to give one here. Yeah, let's stop.
Smart thinking there.
Let's stop this turn now. We have a last-ditch effort. We do have a precision press, so we're guaranteed to go again here from Charles. And was that a sink below an Arsenal?
Yeah, I think it was either a fate or a sink.
Okay. Here we go. 1 dragon. And the rest at you, perhaps?
Yeah, it's a lot of damage to give away. We'll see what he chooses here.
Just the... Yeah, okay. Yeah. Very, very disciplined.
Yep.
Last time he had 2 counters, he actually opted to send a second attack to face. I think he knows he's through... We've gotten through 2 of those Rake the Embers.
Yeah.
We've seen a Dominia. That's been cleared.
He did Remembrance 1, so we might see 4 total this game, but...
That is true.
Another tome.
I do think the Hatchet... The Runaways Hatchet list runs a singleton Remembrance. We saw that already.
Yeah.
That was to put the poppers back in, so no more where that came from. Tome, pitching. We don't have an issue with Ash, but we're going to try and get some extra cards anyway. That's a Yenderai headed for the next cycle, and then burn them all as well. Clever as a late game finisher. Blaze Headlong for 4. Go again, of course.
Yep.
Hard to find all there in the hand. That's making its way back into these longer game playing Dory decks. Now, these guys really... The Runaways really figured out a fantastic... I know none of them were in the top 8 here at the PT, but they really figured out this list and shored up a lot of the weaker matchups. We saw this Hatchet Story deck. I know we're looking at Dawnblade right now, but we saw this crop up a lot in Kiel the week before the Pro Tour. I think Max Klein was there, along with a number of other players. So, like, and it's not a secret. And, of course, this deck used to be around a whole lot. It just wasn't that good.
Yeah.
It didn't have Take It on the Chin. Didn't have agility tokens.
The agility tokens opened that deck up so much because it made it so that you could just use 1 go-again card in hand for that 3rd axe swing. Huge.
Kyloria gets invoked here. Charles has the Dynamos to answer the breakpoint,
Sure.
or he can just give the copper.
Probably wants to just cash in the Dynamos while he's got it, but certainly isn't worried about the on-hit here.
2 breakpoints is annoying. With a heart in hand.
Look at that.
Double Kyloria. I respect Chris, by the way, getting the 1 Marvel and then 1 like Altar, because you know when you play 2 Kylorias. Interesting, yeah. So
no
Chris,
blocks.
yeah, I mean he's taken damage. He's taken a lot of damage. Like Charles can easily block with 2 cards and then sort of just send 1 sword attack. But I think he really now needs to start going Dragon Face. This is the time.
Do you think he'll clear both of these or go face with the second swing?
Probably
3 counters, right?
Yeah, he's going to get a Dynamo back, so he can answer like a Kyloria with a 1 card block. So I probably want to be going face here. You have the guaranteed go. We have go again here over the Warriors Valor. You rather play the precision press because the warrior's value you want to keep in case you need that 4 break point in the event that you lose your counters. This just gives you piercing 1, which could be actually very good in some cases, but
clears them both.
Okay, we're doing it both.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with this and what I find is that if I spend too long, or if the Dory player spends too long building up counters, what an experienced Dromai player will do is sculpt their hand into a bunch of D-reacts. I'm looking at you, Bryce Platts. He played 4 D-reacts against me on the one turn I decided to go face.
Well, that couldn't have been all sculpting unless he pitch stacked that and timed it perfectly.
The thing was that he was playing off full hands all the time. So, I mean, I don't know how he did it, but like it was literally 4 D-reacts, and I was like, you got it.
Yeah.
I'm just not winning this game.
Yeah.
So, but you do give the Dromai some ability to like try and set up a bit for that inevitable, they're coming at my face turn.
Sure. And so we'll be looking at this Dromai to potentially arsenal a D-react soon. Or he pitches one. Not sure if he has the same thought process that Bryce did.
I mean, Bryce is nasty.
Yeah.
Does nasty things.
Well, Chris and Bryce play at
at Odyssey.
same game store, so
Odyssey gang.
they may chat about the game plan into this deck.
All right. A lot of Ashwings here. This is getting a little bit uncomfortable for Charles, and especially if there's a burn them all to accompany these, it gets pretty awkward. Uvia is easily dealt with in here. Popper comes up at a pretty timely moment here for Charles. You're sitting on a few of them here. Now, if you're the Dromai player, if you see the Dory player keep a card in their hand and not arsenal in it, you know it's a popper. You know full well. Go again guaranteed. Uvia eaten up, and we're going to go for an Ashwing too.
5 is a lot of counters.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Again, Charles, if he just needs to go, I think now, like, unless there's more there's going to be more big dragons coming down. So Charles needs to block this out effectively. You can with the Dynamo. You keep clearing dragons until your opponent only puts 1 down.
Sure.
And then
This is almost reminiscent of like a ghostly touch game plan on the Dromai side, though. You get enough counters on that Dawnblade, suddenly it's coming in for a 1-card 15. I don't know if you can ever get that high, but...
I mean, I never, not without front pumps anyway. Sure. But the idea is you get it to the point where like it's more than 12 with a pump, right? Yeah. There are like random blue overpowers in these Dory Hatchets lists, which gives you like a +4, which is with reprise, which is very cheeky. Then obviously getting a +4 on attack reactors, it does cost 3, right? But it's a great little game ender. You pitch it over and over again. It comes up in second, third cycle, and you can sort of win games with it.
I've lost him plenty of blue overpowers. But I love the way Chris is building up his board right here. Yeah,
Mirror Guy coming down is big.
Yeah. No Phantasm on this Kyloria here.
Okay.
Still blocks the breakpoint.
So Charles doesn't care if he's like not blocking a big dragon with that because he can just clear them now. His Dawnblade is so big.
Yeah, I love throwing 6s in front of those little Ashwings as a Victor player.
Absolutely.
It's like, cool, you don't get a turn. Over and over and over and over again.
Driving Blade costs 2, so yeah, it's not the opener here. So we'll go Warrior's Valor. Eat that up. Eat up Kyloria as well. And that deck for Chris Stidger is looking a little lean, my friend.
It is. I don't know if maybe he's stacked it perfectly vertical or if it's quite empty.
Yeah, I think the latter, just quietly.
Yeah, no, I think Charles Dunn knows exactly what he's doing in this matchup.
Yenderai comes down. Again, that one is easily dealt with now as his Dawnblade is a whopping 9 power. And the question is for the Dorinthea in this matchup is how much damage can I afford to take? To give me the buffer to sort of turn on you and start going for it. There's a in the swing in the hand.
I think there was a pretty famous game, and I don't remember if it was last Arcane Games or the one before that, but the Dromai looked like they had it in the bag and then got stuffed on a huge Dawnblade swing that actually cost them the game. So we all know that you can't just rely on the Dromai to let those hit. Dromais have a lot of defense in the tank.
That's right. A ton of those D-reacts. But the problem is if Charles isn't going at Chris, those D-reacts are getting stuck in hand, they're getting pitched away, they're just no good. So, okay, we can just play out the hit and run here. Once again, guaranteed go again. That's all we need to do. Clear some dragons. Yenderai, Themai, in the bin.
Easy choice. Up to 7.
Once again, like you cannot advance your game plan as Dromai without deploying these dragons, but you are playing into the Dory's hands. This is I mean, man, if you really want an example about how to even just, this is a Dawnblade deck without all the spicy Dawnblade tech, the stuff that really lets you get around blocks and stuff. You don't have to worry about guaranteeing that damage until the Dawnblade is so massive that it represents a Damocles sword about to cause a tectonic event crashing down upon this frustrating Ash artist.
It's pretty incredible that you can cut so many Dawnblade cards and still have an effective deck when you know how to play it.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of players could pilot this if they were just handed the deck. I don't know that they would know what to do. But Charles Dunn clearly knows what to do with every single card, blocking with those Blade Runners, just like you said early. Those are block 3s. They have no text on them.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely no value to Charles here. That's why we're seeing him coming up in this second cycle. Down and dirty in the hand. Oop, that was a glint, I think. So
don't want to show that one yet.
No, that's reaction speed.
Yeah.
Glint for go again. Now, do we go face? Please tell me it's time. Is it time? Oh, Charles, you're so patient. It's killing me. All right, Dawnblade, 11 power. Dynamo's reset.
But you know how big of a risk that is.
Oh, that deck's looking thin. Again, the reality is that you hit so hard that your opponent has to just throw cards to block you. And now that Heart of Findle starts to come into its own, also that last-ditch effort starts to come into its own as well.
When the deck is thin, I've seen these Heart of Findles get 2, 3,
even so much free life value.
Amazing.
Yeah, but a good
Back up
time.
to 15.
Good time for Chris to bring the burn them all in. I get it. Charles now is, definitely getting low on cards. Just the Yender I presented here. So now we get to do the thing.
Whoop. Interesting that the Tumultai was blocked with early and then not fetched with the Remembrance. I wonder if it would have been a good idea for Chris to try to get the Arcane Barrier off the board with that.
I mean, it's the plan against Guardians, right?
Yep.
When they bring AB1. I don't hate it, especially because your opponent's going to leave you with a full hand. Yeah, stick this at him. 11. 12.
What you got, Chris Stidger?
And is the problem. Like, Chris can't press her Charles. And like, now with Burn Them All on the field, he has to put a dragon down. Charles is never losing these counters. He's never losing them.
Sink?
Yeah, you can have all the sinks in the world. You can have the kitchen sink. It's not going to help you here.
Interesting. So he gets that counter. So he still wants to play his hand.
He has to. Because he can't put pressure down. But now, now this Dawnblade attacks for 13.
You know that was his opportunity to get those counters off.
He's dead.
With 2 sink blows. How big of a mistake was that?
Oh, he's so dead. I mean, you can't... So, okay, so you full block it. That's great. All you're doing is not letting Charles get another counter. You're not getting rid of them.
Right, because he already hit a dragon.
Charles, you are going to deploy dragons. Charles is going to hit the dragon. He's never losing those counters.
Yep.
Here's the down and dirty. Huh. Okay, oh yeah, again, so this is already starting to break down some of the dragons deployed by that Rake the Embers. You hit a dragon, you hit face.
Yep.
And you have enough go again enablers in this deck to make that happen. In fact, his hand is got 2 of them plus a vigor. And now he can also make that vigor and agility token, which means he can keep his go again generators in his deck because it's getting so lean. Oh, it's so good. All right. Hit and run. Gives go again.
What's he going to hit?
Hit the Ash Wing!
Pretty obvious choice on the first swing, right?
Yeah. And because you want to brace it.
You think he's going for the Ash Wing here?
Yeah, so you have to, because you need a brave.
He hit one already.
Oh, no, well.
He plays. I mean, that's the question, right? How patient is Charles Dunn?
I want to strip Chris's hand here.
I know you do.
That's true.
You've wanted to do that for 5 turns in a row.
How many more Rate DMs? There might be one more. Charles might just do the... Yeah, come on, show him 13 damage.
He's counting.
13. You can't block me.
Yeah.
Okay, sand cover. Cool, that's 4. What else? Okay, that's 8. 5 more block?
No, he's already in D-React, so unless he had 2 more.
That's true.
He's just, preventing the damage as much as he can, but he wants to push offense. But I think you're right. I think it's way too late for that.
Oh, that's so filthy. Okay, still Asphali here, though.
Yeah, lots of Arcane coming in.
Yeah, but we just pitch Heart.
Yeah, so he gains a life off of all that 3 Arcane.
It is scary, though, because Charles has no poppers left. That's all of them.
Yeah.
His deck is in his hand. Deck.
Wow.
Here's the Dynamo.
So look at this, though. He's got an engine built up, a healing engine, a Dawnblade. He's gotten it to the exact break point, 13 every time he swings that Dawnblade.
You have to clear the Asphali here. You can't sort of consistently deal with the AV.
He's woven this perfect end game. He's saying, I don't need a deck. I've got 15 life.
Yennerai shouldn't have died. At what point? I mean, if you're hitting for more than if you're hitting for
Chris
6
is
damage,
now out of a deck too.
Yep. Bye bye. Now
Wow.
you are in the inevitability zone. You give the enlightened strike. You block what you can, and then you extend the fist.
Look at that.
Yeah, the endurance counter doesn't protect it outright. It stops the next 3 damage. Okay, no cards left. The biggest Dawnblade I've ever seen on a streamed game. 13 damage. We just pitched. And
Blocks it all.
oh, he is so good. And here it is. The Runaways, Hatchet Dory, bringing the Dawnblade out.
Look at
Oh,
that.
the last-ditch
Ends
effort.
it with the last-ditch effort.
GG! Charles Dunn. Unbelievable. Again, this is what the deck is built to do, but many players don't get to this stage of the game as Dory. Like, you don't know, okay, do I keep the popper? How long? How much damage am I allowed to take? How many counters do I need to get before I go face? And the moment you get greedy, the moment you lose your patience, you can lose the entire game on the spot. But this is why Charles is confident in this matchup, because there is a degree of inevitability for the Dory here. And all you do... So, let me get this deck list. Let me copy this. All you need to do is put a Dawnblade in your sideboard because you already have plenty of enough support for it that you can basically get a go again enabler every turn.
Yeah.
You do need that though to stop the pressure, but a ton of your go again enablers carry over from the Hatchets build, so you can use them there. That was, I mean, a long game. That for me was extremely interesting to see how he wins.
And really, I think the difference between this Dorinthea player and all the other ones that I've seen lose to Dromai's, patience. So patient. Mitch couldn't do it.
Not really. No. I mean, it's the kind of thing you definitely need a bit of experience for. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we return, we'll get some words from the victor here in the booth.
Welcome back, everyone. We have with us Charles Dunn, the victor of our last match. And Charles, when we first saw this lineup, I don't know that we were expecting Dorinthea. Mitch certainly was, but I hadn't gotten the intel that Dorinthea was heavily favored into Dromai. I thought at the very least it was going to be, I mean, it came down to the last cards in the deck, but certainly it didn't feel close. You had that in the bag at the end. Can you tell me a little bit about your game plan and what you were coming into that with?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the big advantages of Dorinthea as a hero, as opposed to something like Kasai, is that your hero power lets you play Dawnblade really efficiently, and you can attack twice, and you can really efficiently clear out dragons. And if they're like just presenting a few dragons per turn, you can rack up those Dawnblade counters and then start turning it at them, right? You can attack them with a big Dawnblade. So there's this interesting tension from the Dromai's perspective that they need to, put on pressure on me, but then if they kind of time their things right or their hands don't line up, then suddenly I'm whacking them with the Dawnblade for 7 or 8 or 9 damage, right? So the Dromai player needs to play really, play around that really well in order to beat it. And if not, then I'm just going to, farm out all their dragons, not take too much damage. I'll take some chip damage here, but it's hard for them to actually do the full 40 points of damage over the course of the game if they're, can't be that aggressive.
I'm really curious, is there an exact number of counters that you're looking for before you go in?
No, there's not like a hard line. It depends a little bit on game state.
Yeah.
It depends on life totals, right? So at the end of the game where I had some options where he had like 2 or 3 Ashwings left, and I could have attacked like him for 10 or something, or the Ashwings, but then I'm like, well, we're already late in the game. Both players' decks are really low, and if I just attack him for 10, it's literally trading kind of 10 damage for 1 in a way.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I could lose if I just clear out all his dragons because I had enough life total. I wasn't about to give up 1 point of life here, even though I was in the teens still. Didn't feel like it was worth any kind of risk like that.
You knew the inevitability, and so you just went for the guaranteed play. That's really smart. I think obviously, we were sort of sitting here thinking that you were going to swing 4 or 5 turns before you did.
Sure.
Very, very patient gameplay. Is that something that you sort of had to practice to fine-tune? How do you know when to go and when it's time to hold back?
Yeah, it a lot depends on life totals, right? He was still at 32 because he didn't take too much early game. So if I had gotten a few more hits in early game, let's say, I did some times where, maybe I attacked a dragon and then attacked him for 6 or 7, and then he took it. Maybe he's in the 20-ish range. Well, now suddenly, attack for 10, that's half your life total. But when it's a third or less than your life total, it's like, this is a little bit too slow of a clock. So it's a little bit of feel, a lot of practice there.
Yeah.
You just have to feel it right and know how the game's going to play out.
Yeah, there was one turn in the middle there where you had I think 2 poppers in hand, and he was coming in with, I think it was a Yendarai and something else, and you actually just took the damage. Can you explain what the decision was behind that?
Yeah, the main way Dromai needs to play in order to beat my setup, especially from that point, was they need to get a really big turn with, like, say, Chromai into Miragai into Rake the Embers, and then, you know, kind of overload my poppers. And so I could have like used a popper to maybe save 3 life, but I felt the only way I like lose the game is by getting overwhelmed on one big turn, and then he chains into another big turn, and maybe I run out of poppers, or they don't matter because he had Chromai and Miragai. So I value just preserving the number of Phantasm Poppers I still had in my hand / in my deck, especially down and dirty in Arsenal, because that's like really a safety net, right? I just feel very safe if that's down in Arsenal, except for, of course, when I get Command and Conquered. It was a little bit unfortunate.
We saw that, a little bit of a punish on that, but hey, it's pretty cool that you can still block with it. Like at the end of the day, that still shuts down Command and Conquer. So very cool that that kind of works in both directions for that. I also noticed that when you used your one Remembrance, it was just 3 poppers straight back into the deck. Big popper density for the end there. And you were also pitching poppers as well.
Yeah, once again, because the only way you lose is getting overwhelmed on a big turn. So if you have a higher density of poppers, even if they try to go big and you have 2 poppers, you're fine. Right, so that's the idea, is just prevent them from overwhelming me.
Sure. It was really interesting to see, because I think of Dorinthea as more of like an aggressive value type of list rather than a fatigue list, but the way you played it, it felt like a fatigue soul was breathing in that Dorinthea Dawnblade list.
No.
Which was,
I have a fatigue soul in my deck.
It was really cool to see. It was differently than I've ever seen a Dorinthea get piloted. I'm a little bit curious. I know that last Arcane Games you were on the Great Axe list, and so now you're on Hatchets. How do you feel about the difference between those 2 options?
I think they're both really strong decks. That's definitely true. Great Axe is a little bit weaker into someone like the Brutes that are out in the meta, because it can't really punish their big setup turns, and if the Brutes don't want to block you, then your Great Axe isn't all that great.
Sure.
And so I think Hatchets provides a lot more value into decks like KO, which I thought would be pretty popular because it was very popular with Pro Tour. There's still a good number of Leviah here today, which is a similar idea. So I felt like Hatchets is better into that kind of meta.
Okay. Are you still fatiguing people when you've got the Hatchets out, or are you just grinding them down?
Well, it depends, because I played round 2 against Chris Ayali, and I did fatigue him. He was on Victor.
Oh, okay.
It was close. We got down to just a few cards, as you do in fatigue matchups. But the fact was that basically every time I just started with Hatchet for 2, he had to block for 3 on it. And so like I just kind of chipped in some points here and there. Every time I got to block with Dynamo, it gave me value. So even though his attacks were bigger, I was able to just like slowly chip him down over the course of the game.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, so you said that there's sort of some matches that the Great Axe is good into, some matches that you prefer Hatchets. What would you, if you sat down with Hatchets, what would be the deck that you would just say, I wish I was on the Great Axe right now?
I think some of the Guardians, like Victor or Bravo, those matchups can be close. I feel a lot more comfortable on Great Axe because Great Axe is a little bit better into those decks that want to block you with a card or 2. Hatchets,
because you lose a lot of value, right? If they block both Hatchets, you don't get the Dorinthea hero power.
Yeah, and Chris was playing that very well. He was blocking it out very well. So I would have preferred to be on Great Axe, but you can still win on Hatchets. It's a much closer game, though.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that insight. Very awesome gameplay. I hope we see you again in the top 8.
Hope so.
And we're going to head over to a break here in just a moment, and we will see you all when the next round starts.